Good morning and welcome to the webinar, which is a screen reader demo of good versus poor accessibility. My name is Elijah and I work in marketing here at UsableNet. Our first speaker, Jason Taylor, is a Chief Innovation Strategist here, and he'll share a little bit more about us. And I'll hand it off to you, Jason.
Thank you, Elijah. Thanks everybody for attending. I'm very happy to have Joe De Niro with us. I'm going to get him to give a quick introduction to himself and the roles he has. And I think from that, you'll understand the sort of level of expertise that hopefully you're going to have experience today with the screen reader demo.
Thank you, Jason. My name is Joseph De Niro. I am the Director of Business Outreach and the Assistant Program Director of Assistive Technology Services with Helen Keller Services for the Blind. Helen Keller Services for the Blind is a vocational rehabilitation agency that provides a wide range of services to blind and low vision students to help them live in more independent lives, whether that's in the workforce, pursuing higher education, or just living independently on their own in their day-to-day personal lives. My role first as Assistant Program Director of Assistive Technology Services, I oversee a wide array of programs that we provide to our clients, including our Teen Technology Program, Advanced Microsoft Office, and accessibility testing training that we provide to some of our students. I also serve as the Director of Business Outreach, where we provide, I'm tasked to help take some of these services and extend our reach beyond our normal New York City, Long Island region, and provide training to students across the country. And also to help set up strategic partnerships with our agency. When I'm not in that role, I head up the digital accessibility testing team here at UsableNet, where we provide, again, a wide range of services to help our clients to provide the best digital experience, whether it's on their web pages or on their apps, for clients with or for people with all disabilities. And I head up the user testing team, where we do user testing on our clients' websites and platforms.
And Joe, if you're comfortable and you've got like 1 minute, could you just give us a background of your journey into requiring to use a screen reader on a daily basis?
Yep. I spent many years working in the hotel industry. I was an assistant general manager for a hotel in New York City for many years. And when I was 25 years old in that role, in 1994, I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa, which is a degenerative retinal disease. And I was told I was going to be blind probably by the age of 50. In 2002, I started to use a white cane, first initially using it at night, but eventually the need grew 24 hours a day. In 2005, when I went back to school for computer science, I began using Zoom text magnification software to access a computer. And about 10 years ago, in 2015, I transitioned from screen magnification to screen reader, initially using JAWS, but I've come to learn NVDA, VoiceOver, and then both VoiceOver and TalkBack on the mobile platforms.
Great, and hopefully that will give people a context that Joe's going to be able to bring us two sort of levels of user. On a daily basis, he's helping people who have become blind and need to use a screen reader for the first time. So he's very clear about the basics, how a website should work with basic controls. But at the same time, he's a professional that uses a screen reader a lot. So essentially, he also represents what I would class as an advanced user that's looking for different types of structures on websites to help him quickly navigate and get things done on the web. I think that point of his journey is not uncommon. I think people probably are unaware that the vast, and I mean the very vast majority of people that require a screen reader were not born blind. To be born blind today is very rare. So essentially, the vast majority of people become blind through a variety of different reasons. And essentially, that's what Joe does on a daily basis, is introduce people that have required screen reader for the first time, even though they could be of any particular age. So we're going to basically take you to two types of websites. We're going to take you to a website which we hope you recognize, and sort of Joe will give you an idea of how you would generally go about navigating a website, what controls he uses, what he hears. If we just go to the next slide, just so people understand technically how everything fits together, right? Joe uses exactly the same technical setup as most of you people, or most of us. So he uses a computer, he uses a browser, which is Chrome, but he then has a screen reader that acts as the interpreter between the browser and himself. But he also uses his screen reader for when he's using his computer, when he's using Word. So his screen readers are not just about the web, they're about Joe's ability to interpret the digital world into a format that he can then interact with. When it comes to web, there's basically sort of three layers. The web code, which is what developers are responsible for. They should be following WCAG to make sure that they're putting in the structures and the consistency and the robustness that then the browser renders and interprets. The browser are following particular guidelines about how they should process that code and then extend that code out via things like an accessibility tree and others. And then finally, there's a screen reader that essentially gives Joe the connection between the web browser and his world, which is non-visual. So I always want to make that point clear, because if you've got a website that doesn't work very well on a web browser, it's probably not going to work very well for Joe. These are important building blocks for how the web works. Where we want developers code into a WCAG. We want to use browsers which are the latest browsers that know what to do with that code, and then we hope that Joe's able to use a screen reader, the most advanced screen readers, so his experience is about the code and not about issues with the actual technology that he's using. We're going to see, if we go to the next slide, we're going to see basically, and I'm going to call these out, the key considerations. If you own a website, how is Joe interpreting the website? So we're going to talk about purpose. Like, is it clear what the website does? Is it very easy for Joe to understand what the website he should be able to do on that website? Is the structure of the website logical? Imagine you're closing your eyes and you're trying to navigate a house, or you're trying to navigate an office block, right? Joe goes to websites every day. He's looking for logic. He's looking for consistency in terms of how websites work, because that makes it easier for him. Navigation, obviously, is one of the most important things that we all use to get around a website. Is that simple? Is it well structured? Again, is it consistent? And then content. Does the content deliver something which is purposeful, direct, and understandable? And these are all things that you've heard in WCAG. But I feel you're going to watch Joe, you're going to hear Joe, and you're going to understand that these things are about logic and consistency and structure are very important when someone can't see the website. So with no further ado, we're going to try and make sure Joe's setup works well. And we're going to start with Joe taking us through how he uses his screen reader just to basically start on his desktop and find an application like Chrome, launch up a website so you can understand how the screen reader works in general for Joe. Joe, I think you're on. Oh, I don't see your screen yet, Joe. So take your time.
Maximize content, optimize, share Zoom window, share screen button, screens, share screen button, enter, stop share left for an alt plus.
You should have my screen now.
We have your screen, but we also have it on a browser window. I don't know if you wanted to start on the desktop.
Task switching.
Well, that
task switching, screen sharing meeting control. My Brown Thomas account. Alt F4, inbox dash.
Okay, so So the first thing basically a screen reader is designed to provide to me everything that's on the screen, because I depend on being able to read everything that's on the screen. Like, for example, magnification software sometimes has text to speech built into it, but it's not as robust because the user of magnification software can still leverage their eyesight to use this site. So the first thing I'm going to do right now is use a keyboard command to get me down to the desktop.
Windows D, desktop, folder view, list view, not selected, recycle bin, 1 of 32.
Okay, so the screen reader just read to me that I'm on the recycle bin, that it's not selected, and that it's 1 of 32. So what is that telling me? That means the focus is on the recycle bin, but it's not highlighted. That's the not selected piece of it. And then 1 of 32 means that there is 32 icons on the desktop, and this is the first icon of 32 icons on the desktop. So if, for example, I want to go to Microsoft Word, I can use what's called first letter navigation to go there. So if I hit the letter W,
Word, 31 of 32.
right? So I jumped from the first icon to the 31st icon just with the simple command of hitting the letter W. But for our purposes today, I want to use Chrome, so I'm going to hit G for Google.
Google Chrome, 7 of 32.
And again, it circled back around and jumped up to Google Chrome, and I'm going to hit enter on that.
Enter. Address and search bar. Maximized.
Okay. So first website that we're going to go to is something I hope everyone here knows.
Amazon.com. Enter. Amazon.com. Spend less. Smile more. Amazon. Amazon.com.
Okay. So when I first have a user learning how to use the internet, like a student that's coming to me,
Replay.
We teach them the basics of how to navigate. So some of that is first way we teach them is using basic arrow navigation. So if I now use my arrow keys and down arrow from the top of the page.
Shortcuts menu, navigation region. Heading level 2, skip to. Skip to list of 1 items. Same page link, main content.
Okay, so if I was to enter on this, this would take me to the skip to main content link.
List end. Heading level 2, keyboard shortcuts. Keyboard shortcuts, list of 5 items. Link search, Alt, /. Link card, Shift, Alt, C. Link home, Shift, Alt, H.
So Amazon has built-in keyboard shortcuts specifically for their website. And, so if you want to jump to the cart and you learn these, if you're a frequent Amazon user, these can be really, really helpful. So this is one way to navigate.
Amazon.com.
So I just took focus back up to the top of the page. And the next way that I can navigate is using the tab key. So if I now tab through this page, it's going to take me through every element that's in the tab order. So if I tab now.
Amazon.com. Spend less, smile more. Same page link, main content. Banner region, primary navigation region. Amazon link. To activate, press enter. Delivering to central I.1172 to update location button. Search region, search in combo box, all departments. Select the department you want to search in. To change the selection, use the arrow keys.
So I just tabbed into a search field. If I wanted to populate that, I could. Do you want me to do that, or do you want me to keep going, Jason?
I just want to make one point there. So people probably have heard things like tab order under WCAG, right? So if you set your tab order, you want to set your tab order to essentially, if someone's tabbing through the website, to give them the best sort of experience that you would expect them to want to do, right? Amazon go above and beyond the WCAG in that area that Joe talked about. They've sort of set up shortcut key commands to go to particular areas that they think people want to go to on a regular basis. And that's not necessarily only to do with screen readers. It could be useful for any type of user to be able to quickly use shortcut keys. But the main point here is that you can change the experience, or you can make it quite complicated if you haven't really thought about tab order. If you haven't addressed tab order, then potentially tab order will set itself in a way which isn't naturally logical for Joe. So tab order, you want to actually look at and say, well, what is the tab order? And it's very simple to do, because what Joe's doing is hitting the tab key on his keyboard. So essentially, if you go to any website, including your own, and you use the tab rather than the mouse, you'll see what the tab order is and whether you think that's the logical tab order. And that's essentially how you can sort of reimagine how Joe is using tab. I think before you search, Joe, maybe you could also explain that those are sort of what we class as like baby step navigational things, right? A typical screen reader might be looking at different ways to navigate a site, that, especially one they're going to for the first time. Maybe you could take us into how headers and other elements on a page or a website are useful for you, and how you'd use those to navigate, not just listen to every single tab order, which might be 150 tabs before you get anywhere.
Yep.
Escape.
All right, so I'm going to move focus back up to the top of the page.
Amazon.com.
So built into every screen reader is the ability to navigate to different element types on the screen. So one of the primary ways that we teach students initially is to navigate by the headings that are on the page. So if I hit the letter H, for example, right now.
Skip to heading level 2. Keyboard shortcuts heading level 2.
So it's reading me what the heading is, and then what the level of the heading is.
Premium fall fashion heading level 2.
So if I...
Link dresses. Link handbags. Link shoes.
All right, so there's a relationship there between the links that are under that heading.
Women's everyday fashion heading level 2. Fall pre-love designer mustache hats heading level 2.
Again, if I down arrow from here, I'm expecting something related to this heading.
Link Louis Vuitton minis. Link Dior saddlebag.
So, and I can do this for any element. Like, so for example, before the search, now I'm going to go back up to the top of the page.
Amazon.com.
There's a quick key to just search for edit fields. So if I
search edit has pop-up,
I can jump right down to that search field.
Enter search Amazon edit.
And I'm in what's called forms mode, and I'm ready to populate this field with whatever search criteria I determine. So do you want me to do search now? Yes?
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize. So headers are probably, and Joe, I don't know if this is something you said before, right? Headers is one of Joe's favorite ways to get around a website. I think probably, depending on the type of website, headers mean, get you around quicker. For example, like on a content site, like a news content site, right? You'd expect headers to be in an order where you can basically see that you're getting you're getting sent through the top stories, and then you're getting sent through the secondary stories, and then H3s are the third stories, right? So you can sort of find the story you want, and then Joe would enter into that area based on the header. Similar here, what you saw Joe do was went to H2s. So Amazon has essentially said that the H2s are the promotional panels that you see of the 3 product groups, which are on basically the sort of highlighted product groups, because that's what they want. These are collections they put together. They obviously take up a lot of visual space. That means they're super important. And Amazon's made them H2 to make sure people realize that those are some of the most important areas that they could drill down on. If you don't put H's in, then Joe doesn't get the ability to navigate. His screen reader doesn't make up H's. they have to be put into the code. So you have to decide what those headers are and whether they're H1, H2, H3, and that then allows Joe to use those as quick ways to get around.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a search now.
ECAO space AOW. Go button to enter. Amazon.com:/Echo Show. Amazon.com:/Echo Show. Amazon.com:/Echo Show.
Okay, so now I'm going to use, I just did a search. I'm gonna hit H now.
Skip to heading level 2. Keyboard shortcuts heading level 2. 1-16 of over 1,000 results for quote Echo Show quote heading level 2.
So it told me there's 1 of 16 results of a whole lot of Echo Shows. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to first see if Amazon has their product listings on their product listing page as heading. So I'm going to hit H again.
Results heading level 2. Amazon heading level 2. Echo Show 8 with spatial audio, smart home hub, ideal for open living spaces, includes Alexa, charcoal heading level 2 link.
Okay, so each product.
Amazon heading level 2. Echo Show 5, smart display with 2x the bass and clearer sound, charcoal heading level 2 link.
And if I wanted to see more information about that particular Echo Show, which is a smaller model, I'm going to down arrow.
4.4 out of 5 stars, rating details button.
So it's telling me it's 4 out of 4 out of 5 stars.
Link 55,600 ratings.
So 55,000 people rated it.
10K plus bought in past month price, product page. Link $89.99.
Okay.
Free delivery Tuesday, October 28th.
So it's giving me a lot of information that's very useful for me before I even enter on the page to go to the product details page. So I already know what the price is. I know what it's rated at. I know how many people have rated it. So it gives me a lot of information so that when I'm navigating, I have a sense of, do I even want to look at this particular product or not? So this is a very good experience for me as someone navigating this site.
So just to recap on Joe's experience. So he's using different methods to, what I would say, zero in on content or products that he's interested in. So that's the structure that Amazon's put in around headers, around tab order. That allows Joe to sort of quickly get to a place where he's searching for what he wants today. He's now reviewing the top results. Once he finds one that he wants to learn about them, he switches to down arrow. He switches to his arrow to basically then get into that detail. And again, Amazon's decision of what to put in that PLP, so in that result of that search result, it is not necessarily to do with they want Joe to be able to get this information. This is great information for everybody, right? But it's available and quick for Joe to get just as long as we to get, because we can look at it visually. And essentially, this is, again, building that picture of it's logical, it's structured. Joe's getting the experience he expects. When he gets to the website, he hears the structure of it. He expects. This is not, it feels normal. He doesn't feel lost. Is there anything else that you'd add about like your experience on Amazon in general?
No, Amazon is for me, both on this platform and even in their app. They've taken great efforts to make this experience. And the point you make is that this is great information for everyone, right? But what it is for me is that I have that same information easily at my fingertips as someone who is sighted. That's really what we're trying to achieve, is that someone like myself has the same information that is available for a sighted individual as readily available as it is for anyone else.
Great. So now let's give you what is Joe's experience like, maybe if he goes to an e-commerce site that hasn't quite got it right. And we'll sort of hopefully this will demonstrate how potentially if you get one thing wrong and it's a big thing for Joe, it could change everything for Joe. So maybe you could I think we were looking at one site yesterday, Joe, but
Yep.
I thought you did a good job of demonstrating that.
Aldi, Amazon.com code pasted from clipboard. Enter. Brown Thomas vertical bar designer fashion, beauty, homeware and gifts dash Google Chrome. Brown Thomas vertical bar designer fashion, beauty, homeware and gifts dash Google Chrome page. List end. Page has 21 regions, 8 headings and 42 links. There are 3 Brown. Link shop sale products. Up to 50% off Star Home. Up to 50% off Star Home. Enjoy up to 25% off Star almost everything. Even more offers. Sign in to access even more offers from some of your favorite brands. Don't miss out.
All right. So I started
up
off
25% off Star jewelry.
All right. So right now
up
I'm
to
actually
50%.
not
Everything
doing anything on the screen.
Switch up.
And I'm hearing the screen reader talking to me, which means there's an active carousel probably on the screen that's happening. But I tried arrowing down initially to navigate through this page.
If you keep narrowing down.
Link shop now. Link shop up to 25% off Star Women's dash up to 25% off Star Women's. Save on shoes. Save. Link shop the festive beauty advent calendar dash the beauty. Link shop up to 25% off Star Men's dash up to 25% off Star Men's. Link shop up to 25% off Star bags and accessories dash up to 25% off Star bags.
You don't stop there, Joe.
Yep.
So lock on. Numlock on space.
I'm going to mute my screen so it will stop talking, at least while you're talking.
Fine, it's okay. I mean, for everyone who's probably this is the first time maybe that you've experienced screen readers, right? The first thing that Joe talked about is that essentially he entered the website, and essentially the website put him somewhere which is actually took focus rather than right at the top of the page with nothing going on. Took him into an active carousel area, right? So firstly, Joe's a little bit like stressed out because he's hearing stuff. And I'm sure if you've never heard screen readers before, you're stressed out because you're like, what is going on, right? Joe would then naturally sort of arrow down because, he's gone to an e-commerce site. He's going to expect to hear navigation options, like category options. So he's hearing navigation options right now. But unfortunately, because the website put initial focus into the carousels, all the options he's hearing are what you're seeing in the carousels or in the, let's say, the hero advertising, right? The shop now for 25% off, the shop the beauty advert calendar that you can see on screen. So Joe's first impression is, well, those are the main navigation. This is what I can do on the site. So it's quite frustrating for him because he's hearing stuff which doesn't necessarily match all the other e-commerce sites he goes to. And essentially, because focus has actually been put directly on a carousel, it's challenging him to understand what he should do next. How would he actually do something next? So, as I said before, there's a scale of user. Joe instantly started to feel like, oh, I'm probably on a carousel. That's because he's a pro user. He looks at websites every day. He knows what can be going wrong. If you're a typical user, you may, honestly, you're most likely just going to hear a lot of talking going on and probably go somewhere else because you can't use this site because you might not even know how to stop the carousel. So now, Joe, what would you now go and do to sort of, as a pro user, to sort of get back on track?
I would navigate up to the top of the page and try to arrow down into the main navigation menu. So I'll do that now. I'm going to put my
full speech.
So I'm going to go back up to the top of the page.
Brown Thomas vertical bar designer.
And I'm a down arrow. And again,
same page link skip to content.
I am hearing
link what's happening now : Encore loyalty offers. Link discover our app today. Save on shoe.
But that carousel's still reading.
Link where IT tonight vertical bar. Close.
Now I hear close.
Up to.
So I'm hoping that that word close
Everything.
means maybe that I can close this carousel, that it's some sort of overlay or something. So if I hit enter,
Save on sheet. Link close. Enter. Link graphic up to 25% off. Stop. Up to 20. List of one. Link graphic up to 20. Heading level 2 up to 25.
and it actually
Everything.
looks like it moved focus someplace else, but maybe back into the carousel.
Sign in to access.
I think it
Heading
opened.
level 2 save on shoes. Up to 20.
So
Could you go back up? Could you go back up? Force homepage and then
Up to.
I'm going back up
we're
to
only,
the top.
Same page.
we're,
links.
we're only showing this to people to realize that Joe's got some patience here, right? He's like, okay, I'll go back up to the top and then let's see if another way of navigating will find me the navigation of the main nav.
Link discover. Link where IT.
I'm moving a little faster here.
Close.
That close, and a close is that not even labeled as an element. It just says close. So it doesn't say that it's a button, it's a link or anything. So it could be something that's not even visible. I'm going to continue down.
Link Brown Thomas home. Global site navigation region. List of 3 items. Everything.
And you're hearing a lot of words. You're hearing like the Brown Thomas words being replicated, global navigation. So even the naming of the links is
up to
not fantastic.
List of 3, i.e. left paren euro sign right paren up. Link stores. Link user : login. Link login. List end. List of 12 items. Link collapsed menu up to 25% off. Link collapsed menu new in.
Now
link collapsed menu beauty.
Now we're in the main navigation.
Link collapsed menu women.
Yeah, can you stop there?
Link collapsed menu bags.
So
everything electrical,
But again, and I'm going to pause now so that you can talk.
Lock on. Yeah. Lost space. Speech on demand.
But the carousel is the content of the carousel is still continuing to read as I'm trying to go through that experience.
So as you can see, Joe's trying to get to a place where he's hearing something that he's used to hearing, which is main navigation typically is a collapsed list, so a sub list. And if you could just select one of those, so they can see that you're on one of those.
Link collapsed menu women. Up to enter. Brown Thomas vertical bar designer fashion. Main region. Link breadcrumb go to home. Visited current page link breadcrumb go to women. Heading level 1 woman's fashion. Visited heading level 1 link women.
So it says heading level 1 women.
List of 9 items. Link new in. Link clothing. Link lingerie and loungewear. Link bags. Link jewelry. Link accessories.
So I'm not sure if I'm actually in a submenu because of the heading, the level 1 heading. So I don't know if like a women's page loaded or not.
Numlock on. Numlock all title is Woman's Fashion Vertical Bar.
It sounds
so
like
a good example here, Joe.
So it's a woman's page that loaded.
Yeah.
Instead of a submenu.
But on the women's page, there is a submenu. What's interesting is if you went, I think we looked at this yesterday, right? If you went to one of the other main navigation collapsed. So one of the previous ones.
Let's try to jump down there.
Link what's happening. Link Brown Thomas Brown global site navigation list of 3 IE links link list of link collapsed menu new in link collapsed menu beauty collapsed menu beauty space woman's fashion vertical bar main region link breadcrumb go to home heading level 1 beauty.
Even today.
List of one items link brands link list ends nesting level 1. List of 17 items nesting level 1. Link shop the festive advent calendar. Link 20% off some.
Same thing. It looks like it's a page just for beauty, and then you have all the subcategories in
link new in
as lists.
Link beauty.
A list of links.
Beauty gifts.
Yeah, so I think the thing that Joe's trying to emphasize here is that like you would expect this to, if it's a collapsed menu, to give you the sub menu, and And as a user, actually, some of these open up as a hover over. Some of them open up into a main page. So again, he lacks the consistency. And when you don't have consistency, what happens with screen reader users is they feel they did something wrong. They feel that they clicked on something which they shouldn't have clicked on because it sends them to something that they're not expecting to hear. And that is really probably the root. And Joe, maybe you can talk about that. But we, as users who have the ability to see what's happening, you have so much more information that you're processing about what you did and what next to do, where Joe has a very limited amount of information, and he's essentially it's getting interpreted to him, obviously through words and sounds. And if every time he clicks on a link, it seems to change. Mainly, Joe, I feel like a lot of the time the end user feels they're doing something wrong, and that's how they, one, get frustrated, two, probably don't continue because they don't know what they're doing right or wrong.
Yeah, in many instances, someone like myself, we have a set of tools. Like, I looked before for the women's page, for example. I just read the page title using a keyboard shortcut, so I knew I was on a different page and that loaded. But a lot of beginner users and even just average users don't necessarily have the same tool set. So most times they assume that they did something wrong, and that it wasn't necessarily an issue with the website, that it was an issue with the user. And when inherently it was the website that there's problems at.
Great. I just wanted to make sure that we're leaving enough time for questions, because I feel like hopefully you got a what I would class as a calm session with Amazon, right? Where you pretty much could probably close your eyes and understand what Joe was doing and where he was at and what he was listening to a more chaotic experience, where, because the initial experience that you probably were expecting to hear, which is very similar to Amazon, it starts silent and then you start to hear navigation, wasn't the experience that was presented, and essentially you get very chaotic in your head about what's happening with the screen reader. So, but as Joe's sort of a very unique resource, and has very personal experience, but also working with lots of different people who use screen readers, I wanted to make sure that we are leave enough room for questions.
What was the difference or advantage in using the arrow keys instead of using tab? I saw that portion, but wasn't sure the difference in using arrows, as I couldn't tell where it was bringing him.
So arrow keys reads every line on the page. So the tab key is only going to tab to interactive elements that are in the tab order typically. So you're not going to be able to read static text that's on a web page using the tab key, or even any of the quick keys that are built into the screen reader.
Joe, you're gonna have to keep me honest on this because you use screen readers every day, right? Think of tab as a navigational aid for Joe, right? You can create the tab order, help him go fast through a website to the key areas. A little bit like headers as well. Headers are a great way for him to find the area he wants to work with. The arrow is the detail. The arrow is moving one element at a time. So Joe would prefer to find an area, then use the arrow to go one item at a time inside that area, as opposed to start at the top and go through every single element to go down and find what he wants, right? It's almost like the arrow is the last resort, right? If Joe can't find what he wants, he knows it's somewhere on the page. He's going to use the arrow and maybe hit the arrow 150 times to find the thing that he wants on the page, but that's the last resort. Is that a good description?
Absolutely. Yeah. Tabbing for me personally, I typically use that more in using forms. any sort of form. So registration form, checkout form, that sort of thing. That's where I'm typically using Tab most of the time.
Which screen reader should you test with?
All of them.
So
Um,
it's a good question. It's a good question, and again, it goes back to that as we talked about setup. And Joe will say, Joe, could you just give quick recap of your technical setup? Computer, browser, screen reader.
So today I'm on a Windows 11 computer. I typically use Chrome primarily, although I use Edge as well, and Brave. So it really depends on what I'm using it for. And then I use JAWS and NVDA. I use primarily JAWS for work, but I use NVDA particularly in my role here with UsableNet.
So I'm gonna address the screen readers in a second, but the first thing I want to make sure people understand when about testing is always test with a browser that you test with normally. So if you don't test with Chrome and then you go do screen reader testing with Chrome and a screen reader, you're just as much finding issues that you might have with Chrome as you are with the screen reader. So you want to stay with the browser level that you use, and then add a screen reader. And then Joe, could you maybe give the practical difference between
JAWS and NVDA?
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So JAWS is primarily used in higher education, government, the enterprise environment. NVDA is used many times for just for personal use for users, and that's a big piece of that is the price point of JAWS versus NVDA, which is a free solution.
Yeah. So I'd say the practical reality is that if you believe that most of your audience probably work for companies or work for government agencies or work at big universities, right? You can probably assume that they probably have budget and they will use JAWS. JAWS is probably the best one out there. If Joe said which one would he use the most, he'd use JAWS, but it costs money. If you're mainly believe that it's the average consumer, it's probably people who aren't working for those sort of big companies or big organizations, and it's more individual, then either testing with NVDA or with a voiceover on Mac OS are more likely the types of environments that those people will use because they don't pay for them.
Joe, what do you think about accessibility widgets, and what's your experience when you visit sites that use them?
Can I just, before you answer that, Joe, I just want, because maybe people don't know what accessibility widgets are. I believe the question's referring to many websites you might go to, maybe have a sort of an icon with some type of disability icon, or a universal inclusive icon. And when you click on it, it opens up a panel, and that panel provides functionality which is in the world of sort of accessibility. It allows you to change some font sizes. It could change color contrast. It could help you basically change the sort of preferences that you've got on that website to make that website present itself in a more comfortable way for how you may want to use that website. Many are promoted as basically being it's going to fix accessibility. You're doing a great job for the entire accessibility world, and maybe maybe go too far in what they say, but I want to make sure people understand when it talks about an accessible widget, it's typically something that pops up and allows the user to sort of control some of the accessibility controls on a website. Joe, what's your experience with them? What's your sort of general take as a screen reader user?
My general take for accessibility widgets is basically if if it's for a low vision user, it might be helpful, but for screen reader users, more times than not, it breaks things. For example, where I live currently in the complex that I live, we have a portal for paying our rent, for maintenance requirements, community events, all that stuff. When I first came here, the site used a widget, and to log in, a username, password, and then the button to log in just had the word login. It wasn't labeled as an element, wasn't labeled as anything, and I couldn't log in. And the only way I was able to work around it was to download an extension to block the widget. And then there was that word login was replaced with an unlabeled button. Not ideal, but it's only one button. So at least I know what the purpose of that button is, given the username, password, and what that form looks like. So that's an example where it, the widget actually breaks the that login process.
Yeah, and I mean, for technical people, if you understand, essentially a widget adds another piece of UI on top of a website, between the website and Joe's screen reader. So the screen reader wants to talk directly to the browser, and the browser wants to talk directly to the code. A widget essentially is adding another UI element that can cause more problems for particular users, specifically with screen readers, which is why we see it, most companies that want to make sure that their website works for everybody, and in particular screen reader users, because screen reader users are the ones which essentially bring the most lawsuits. They don't want to use another piece of technology that can cause more problems for their screen reader users.
Have a great day, and that will conclude today's webinar.